Of course, a very interesting twist of events from the courts, and that leads us to a big question tonight. And we'd like to hear your thoughts on it. And we're asking you, should Rawal keep up the fight to stay in the judiciary till the age of 74? Should Rawal keep up the fight to stay in the judiciary till the age of 74? We'd like to hear your thoughts on that big question. You can tweet me directly at Betty M. Kialo, or you can also use the hashtag Friday Briefing, and I will be taking a look at your responses during the show. Right, and like I mentioned, we want to hear deeper insights into what took place today in the courts. And joining me right now in studio is Senior Counsel Ahmednassir Abdullahi. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
My pleasure.
First of all, I'd like to hear your reaction on, first of all, the ruling on the retirement age, and then subsequently the suspension of that order.
I think, we are not really surprised by the decision of the Court of Appeal saying that all judges should retire at 70. That's the decision, a 5-judge bench of the High Court reached. This was a 7-judge bench of the Court of Appeal. And whether someone should retire at 70 or 74, it's such a basic constitutional principle that two rational people cannot disagree on. It's so obvious that the retirement age is 70, because that's what the Constitution says. How can there be argument about it?
Right.
Yes.
Could there be any other motives that Kalpana Rawal has? Because that move to the Supreme Court was really fast.
Actually, I was in the court today, and we have this feeling actually that they filed the appeal when the judgment of the Court of Appeal was read. How she knew that she would lose the case is, something we will has to be investigated. But she didn't. Her application did not have a copy of the judgment because her lawyer requested for a copy of the judgment, and the court said that they will be supplied on Monday. But it is very clear that there was a lot of strategy behind scene, that she knew that the case will go against her. She has planned she will go to the Supreme Court. Even how the file went to Justice Njoki is still an issue to be investigated, because there is a rule on how files should move in the Supreme Court, and it is the Chief Justice that decides. If he is not there, the deputy, and in terms of seniority. So there's a lot of issues that will come out once a proper investigation on this matter is. But I have no doubt that this was well planned and well executed. All
right, it's interesting that you say that, because even our big question, we're asking if she should keep up the fight. But why is this fight? There are quarters that feel that she has been eyeing, of course, the Chief Justice post. Could that be one of the reasons why she's really fighting?
I think there's this silly argument people make that Rawal is being stopped to become the Chief Justice. I've interviewed her 3 times, and I can tell you that if she applies to become Chief Justice, there is 99% chance that she will not even be shortlisted. She can't make Chief Justice. Everybody knows.
Right.
The circumstance why she became a DCJ is all known to us. We know it. We are the ones who gave the job. But where does she get this feeling that she is a Chief Justice material?
All right. Let's move on now to, back to the appeal and what happened and, the move to the Supreme Court. Come 24th of June, where that hearing is supposed to happen, what will happen? Because at that time, the CJ will probably have most likely actually gone home by the 16th.
Yes, the CJ is leaving on 16th or 17th. And actually from today, we don't have a Supreme Court of Kenya. You can't allow people to occupy an office by force. Both Justice Tunoi and Rawal, the High Court has said that they can't sit. They tried to get a stay order from the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal has refused. As far as the judiciary is concerned, Rawal retired from the judiciary on 17th January 2016.
Right.
So there is no way Justice Njoki could tell her to continue the work, because she has retired. She has left the judiciary.
Right.
She has asked for a stay, and the court said, we cannot stay, because you can't allow someone who has reached the 70 years to continue sitting in the courts.
But then come 24th of June, who then is going to be on that bench? Because if she and Tunoi are not fit to be there, because they're part of that specific case, we have also the CJ who probably will not be there.
Yes, you see, both Justice Rawal and Justice Njoki know that there will be that quorum problem. That is why they got this conservatory order, and they know that there will be no quorum. And the strategy is that she can sit in court for the next 4 years. Yes.
So if there's no quorum, the
case will not be had. Yes.
Everything will stay as is.
Yes. And she will have this court order that she can sit in the Supreme Court.
And what happens when the CJ, leaves? Will she now take the position of acting CJ?
There is nothing like acting CJ in the constitution. She will remain in this state of limbo she is. But I think the JSC should be, in my view, take a decisive step and, make, say that, she has reached the 70, whether there's a court order or not. You can't break the constitution just because there's a court order. The constitution is so clear. But also, the Kenyan public, the law society of Kenya, these are things you can't just allow to happen. You can't allow judges to give orders to their fellow judges and occupy offices that have constitutional underpinning. So I think I've spoken to the law society, and I think I hope they will buy the ideas many people suggested to them, that there must be picketing, there must be demonstration against Justice Rawal and the Supreme Court. You can't allow the Supreme Court to degenerate the way it has degenerated. It's an absolute circus. It's a scandal.
So then what next? What should be next? What is that solution that probably we should be looking at in regards to the composition and the quorum that you've talked about?
At least one thing we certain is that the Chief Justice... Look, first, Kenyans should appreciate that we have a Chief Justice who's retiring 1 year early. He could have stayed for 1 year, but he said, no, I want Kenya to have a Chief Justice in an orderly manner and interview him and recruit him. Then we have people who are judges, who are 70 years old, who are refusing to leave. Can you compare these two kind of people? But the point is, let us first recruit the Chief Justice, and I think the JSC will do that once the Willie retires. Then at least we see how to go about it. But it's a scandal, really. And Kenyans should appreciate this.
It is a scandal, and I think even from this discussion, there are many more questions than answers. Because then, what happens to that composition of the Supreme Court? Like you mentioned, Rawal and Tunoi are all obviously out. Then what happens to the Supreme Court composition moving forward? Looking into the future.
I think for a considerable time from now, the Supreme Court will be in a state of limbo, really. You can't have a viable Supreme Court when you have this kind of circus where a judge who has retired gets an order and try to sit, where the judges in the court, do, this kind of thing.
Right.
The Supreme Court, in a sense, has ceased to exist, in my view. You can't have a Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, where someone sits by force. It's like Uhuru, when he serves 2 terms, says, no, I want to have a 3rd term. Then he gets a court order and sits in the State House. It's such, it's more preposterous than that, really. It's more absurd than that.
Right, yes. But there are also other quarters that are saying that, for Justice Kalpana Rawal, she's a Kenyan citizen and she has the right to move to the Supreme Court.
Yes, I agree. But you see, the Constitution says that Kalpana Rawal should go home when she reached 70. She has reached on 17th January 2016. The Constitution does not allow you to occupy an office by force. That's what she's doing.
All right. So, internationally, is there a precedent that maybe has been set on how we can move forward and look for a solution for us?
A judge of a Supreme Court refusing to leave, getting a court order so that he can hear a case and occupy, it's unheard of. You can't hear such a thing anywhere in the world.
All right, so you mentioned also that the LSK will have some sort of activities. You mentioned picketing. What exactly will they be targeting or aiming at?
I don't speak for the Law Society, but I spoke to 1 or 2 members of the council, and I think we have done this before during the time when Rachel was the chairman of the Law Society, during the Yellow Ribbon. And I think there is a need for the Law Society to picket to ensure that Rawal and Tunoi obey the law of the land and stop occupying a court they are not entitled to occupy.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. All right, Senior Counsel Ahmednassir Abdullahi there, talking to us about, of course, the interesting developments that have been taking place today in the courts. And that also is the premise of our big question tonight.